The Great Pyramid stands 481 feet tall. 2.3 million limestone blocks. Each block weighs 2.5 tons. Some weigh 15 tons. The granite slabs in the king's chamber, 70 tons each. And inside? Nothing. No mummy, no treasure, no inscriptions explaining who built it or why. 3 chambers connected by passages so narrow a modern human can barely crawl through. Walls smooth as glass. Corners cut to tolerances that would challenge a laser. The official story says slaves built this with copper chisels and wooden ramps. 20 years of construction, 100,000 workers. Pharaoh Khufu's tomb. But here's what they don't tell you. No copper tools ever found at Giza. No ramps, no construction records, no papyrus scrolls describing the building process. Nothing. The oldest Egyptian texts about the pyramids were written 2,000 years after construction. 2,000 years.
That's like us writing about the birth of Christ based on nothing. No eyewitnesses, no documents, just stories passed down through 100 generations. And those stories, they don't mention slaves or copper tools. They mention something else entirely. Look, I know what you're thinking. Pyramids are ancient history. We learned about them in school. Slaves, ramps, decades of labor, case closed. But stay with me here. Because when you actually examine the evidence, the physical, measurable, testable evidence, the official story falls apart. Not in small ways. In fundamental, undeniable ways that mainstream archaeology refuses to address. And the reason they refuse? Once you see what I'm about to show you, you can't unsee it. The implications are too big, too threatening to everything we've been taught about human history. So here's my question for you, and I want you to think about this, really think about it.
If the ancient Egyptians built the Great Pyramid with primitive tools in 20 years, why can't we replicate it today with all our modern technology? We've put men on the moon. We've split the atom. We've mapped the human genome. But we cannot, literally cannot, rebuild the Great Pyramid using the methods Egyptologists claim the Egyptians used. Drop your theory in the comments, because by the end of this, you're going to question everything you were taught about ancient Egypt. And honestly, you should. Let me start with the official narrative, the one taught in every university, the one in every textbook. Pharaoh Khufu commissioned the Great Pyramid around 2570 BC, roughly 4,500 years ago. His architect, Hemiunu, designed it as a tomb. The construction took 20 years. 100,000 workers, mostly farmers during flood season when they couldn't work their fields. They quarried limestone blocks locally. They quarried granite from Aswan, 500 miles south. They transported the granite on barges down the Nile. They used copper tools to cut the stone. They used wooden sledges and ropes to move blocks. They built massive ramps to raise stones into position. Layer by layer, they stacked 2.3 million blocks into the largest structure on Earth. When Khufu died, they sealed his mummy inside, his journey to the afterlife secured. That's the story. That's what they teach. Now let's test it. First problem, the timeline. 20 years of construction. 2.3 million blocks. Do the math. That's 115,000 blocks per year, 315 blocks per day, 13 blocks per hour. 1 block every 4.5 minutes. Every 4.5 minutes for 20 years straight, workers had to quarry a 2.5-ton block, transport it to the construction site, lift it into precise position, mortar it perfectly, then start on the next one.
No breaks, no delays, no mistakes. 4.5 minutes per block. And remember, some blocks weigh 15 tons, some weigh 70 tons. The King's Chamber ceiling slabs are 80 tons each, lifted 300 feet off the ground, positioned with tolerances measured in fractions of an inch. 4.5 minutes per block. Does that sound possible to you? But okay, maybe they had massive manpower. Maybe they worked in parallel, multiple quarries, multiple ramp systems, thousands of workers swarming the site. Except, and here's where it gets interesting, there's no evidence of that either. No worker camps big enough for 100,000 people. No mass graves filled with the bodies of workers who died during construction. No refuse piles indicating decades of continuous occupation. Egyptian archaeologist Mark Lehner excavated the plateau for 30 years. He found a workers' village, small settlement, maybe 2,000 people maximum, not 100,000. 2,000. And the cemetery nearby? 4,000 burials, over a span of 3 centuries. That's 13 deaths per year. Not the casualties you'd expect from a 20-year mega-project involving 100,000 laborers. So where did everyone go? Where's the evidence of the largest construction workforce in ancient history? It's not there. But the pyramid is. Standing. Precise. Impossible. Second problem, the tools. Egyptologists say workers used copper tools, copper chisels, copper saws, wooden mallets. That's what they had, that's what they used. Copper has a Mohs hardness of 3. Limestone has a hardness of 3 to 4. Granite has a hardness of 7. You can cut limestone with copper, barely. It takes forever and the copper dulls almost immediately. But technically it's possible. Granite? No. Physically impossible. Copper cannot cut granite. It's like trying to slice steel with a butter knife. The copper bends, the granite doesn't. Yet 60% of the Great Pyramid's interior is granite. The King's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, the relieving chambers above the King's Chamber, all granite. Massive blocks cut with extraordinary precision. And here's the thing that should make you pause. We have copper tools from ancient Egypt, hundreds of them, displayed in museums, analyzed by metallurgists. And none, not one, shows the wear pattern consistent with cutting stone. So what about the tool marks? Christopher Dunn, a precision engineer with 40 years' experience in aerospace manufacturing, examined the granite boxes inside the pyramids. These boxes, called sarcophagi, are carved from single blocks of granite, hollowed out, walls perfectly smooth, internal corners at 90-degree angles. Dunn measured the tool marks, microscopic grooves left by whatever cut the stone. The grooves are parallel, evenly spaced, 0.05 inches apart. They spiral through granite at a rate impossible for any hand tool. Dunn calculated the feed rate, how fast the cutting tool advanced through the stone. 0.1 inch per revolution, through granite. Modern diamond-tipped drills advance at 0.001 inches per revolution, 1/100th the speed. Whatever cut these boxes was 100 times more efficient than our current technology. And it wasn't copper. Third problem, the precision. The Great Pyramid's base is a near-perfect square. Each side measures 756 feet. The difference between the longest and shortest side? 0.2 inches, less than the width of a human thumb. Across 756 feet. The base is level to within 1 inch, over 13 acres. They achieved levelness that modern construction equipment struggles to match. The 4 sides align to true north, south, east, and west. The margin of error? 3 arc minutes. That's 1/20th of a single degree. How did they do that? Egyptologists say they used the stars, observed celestial north.
Marked it with wooden stakes and string. Sure, okay. But try it yourself. Go outside tonight. Find true north using only stars and wooden stakes. Get within 3 arc minutes. Let me know how that works out. But the precision gets stranger. Inside the king's chamber, the granite blocks fit together so tightly, you can't slide a playing card between them. No mortar, just stone against stone. Surfaces ground so flat they create suction. The joints are better than modern masonry, better than what we can achieve with laser-guided cutting equipment. And these aren't small blocks. These are 70-ton slabs, hoisted 300 feet up, positioned with millimeter accuracy. 300 feet up, using wooden ramps and copper tools. You see the problem yet? Let's talk about those ramps. To reach the pyramid's peak at 481 feet, you need a ramp. Basic physics can't levitate stones. Egyptologists propose different ramp designs: straight ramp, spiral ramp, internal ramp. Combination ramps. They've been arguing about this for 100 years because none of the designs work. A straight ramp with a reasonable incline, say 7 degrees, would need to be a mile long. It would require more material than the pyramid itself, and no evidence of such a ramp exists anywhere near Giza. A spiral ramp wrapping around the pyramid would block access to the sides. Workers couldn't check corners for accuracy. Can't build a precision structure if you can't see what you're building. An internal ramp? Sure, but how do you build the top 20% of the pyramid once the internal ramp is enclosed? How do you place the final 1,000,000 blocks? No ramp theory works, not one. And that's why Egyptologists can't agree, because they're trying to solve an impossible problem with insufficient tools. Fourth problem: the missing records. Ancient Egypt was bureaucratic. They documented everything: tax records, grain inventories, livestock counts, legal disputes, religious ceremonies, everything. We have papyri from Khufu's reign, shopping lists, letters, administrative memos, boring everyday documents that survived 4,500 years. But nothing about pyramid construction. Not one document describing the building process. Not one overseer's log detailing daily progress. Not one supply list for copper tools or wooden ramps. 0. The only construction record ever found is the diary of Mira, a mid-level official who transported limestone from Tura to Giza. The diary mentions delivering stones. That's it. No mention of how they cut the stones, how they moved them, how they lifted them. It's like finding a delivery receipt for steel beams, but having no blueprints, no construction logs, no explanation of how the Empire State Building was actually built. Where are the records? For the greatest construction project in Egyptian history, nothing. Fifth problem: the interior passages. The Great Pyramid isn't just a pile of blocks. It's a complex 3-dimensional structure. 3 chambers, 2 shafts ascending from the king's chamber, 1 shaft descending from the queen's chamber, a grand gallery with a corbelled ceiling, relieving chambers above the king's chamber, a subterranean chamber carved into bedrock. Some passages are only 2 feet by 3 feet. Modern humans can barely squeeze through. You have to crawl on your belly, limestone pressing against your back, your chest, your skull. So how did workers chisel these passages? How did they see? Torches create smoke. Smoke needs ventilation. But the shafts weren't connected when the passages were carved. How did they breathe? How did they work in absolute darkness, in spaces too small to swing a hammer? And why build such passages at all? If it's just a tomb, why the complexity? Why the precision? Why engineer ventilation shafts that serve no purpose for a dead pharaoh? Now here's where it gets really strange. The so-called air shafts from the king's chamber were discovered in 1638 by an explorer who noticed small openings in the walls. Later surveys found the shafts climb through solid limestone at precise angles, 45 degrees, perfectly straight for 200 feet. In 1993, German engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a robot up the southern shaft from the Queen's chamber. The robot traveled 213 feet. Then it hit a limestone door, polished limestone, smooth, with 2 copper pins embedded in it. A door inside the pyramid, sealing something. In 2002, they drilled through the door, found another chamber, empty, except for another door at the back. 2 doors, 200 feet of shaft leading to empty space. What were they sealing? What were they protecting? And before you say burial chamber, there's no mummy, no treasure, no inscriptions, just empty space and sealed doors.
Let me show you something they don't talk about in the textbooks. The relieving chambers above the king's chamber. 5 granite chambers stacked vertically, each chamber separated by massive granite beams. Total weight, several thousand tons. Official purpose, reduce pressure on the king's chamber ceiling, distribute the weight of the pyramid above. But here's the problem. The king's chamber is already under millions of tons of limestone. Adding 5 relieving chambers doesn't meaningfully reduce pressure. It's structural overkill. Unless they weren't relieving chambers. Unless they were something else. British explorer Colonel Howard Vyse blasted his way into these chambers in 1837 using gunpowder. Inside the chambers, he found red ochre markings, painted symbols, quarry marks, names of work gangs, and the name Khufu painted in hieroglyphics. This painting is the only evidence connecting the Great Pyramid to Khufu. One painted name in a chamber that was sealed before Vyse blasted it open. Convenient, right? Skeptics have questioned whether Vyse faked the markings. The hieroglyphics contain errors, misspellings that a forger might make, and the paint style doesn't match other confirmed Khufu-era inscriptions. But let's assume the markings are genuine. Let's assume Khufu's workers painted them. That still doesn't tell us how they built the pyramid. So we have 5 massive problems with the official story. 1. Impossible timeline. Can't place 2.3 million blocks in 20 years using primitive tools. 2. Wrong tools. Copper cannot cut granite, yet 60% of the interior is granite. 3. Impossible precision. Tolerances we struggle to achieve with laser-guided equipment. 4. No records. 0 documentation of the greatest construction project in ancient history. 5. Inexplicable interior design. Passages too small for humans. Shafts leading to sealed doors. Chambers with no clear purpose. And mainstream Egyptology's response? Keep teaching the copper tools and ramp story. Ignore the contradictions. Attack anyone who questions the narrative. But the evidence doesn't care about consensus. The evidence just sits there, in the stone, waiting for someone brave enough to look. Now, let's get physical. Let's talk about something you can verify yourself if you ever visit Giza. The granite boxes. Inside the king's chamber sits a granite box, 7 feet long, 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep, carved from a single block of Aswan red granite. No lid, just a rectangular box open at the top. Egyptologists call it a sarcophagus, Khufu's coffin. Except it's too small for a royal burial. No inscriptions, no decorations, no gold leaf or artwork. Just bare, polished granite. And here's what should make your skin crawl. The box is heavier than the passages leading to the king's chamber. It couldn't have been brought in after construction.
It had to be placed during construction, which means they built the pyramid around this box. Why? What's so important about a granite box that you design an entire pyramid to contain it? Engineer Christopher Dunn examined this box in detail. He measured the interior corners, perfect 90-degree angles. He measured the walls, parallel to within 0.01 inches over 7 feet. He examined the tool marks, the same spiral grooves, the same impossible feed rate. But here's what blew his mind. He tapped the granite with a rubber mallet. The box rang, a clear, resonant tone, like a bell. He measured the frequency. The granite resonated at a specific harmonic, not random vibration, intentional acoustic design. Dunn tested granite boxes in other pyramids. Same result. Each box tuned to a specific frequency. That's not a coffin. That's a machine component. An engineered acoustic chamber designed to resonate at precise frequencies. For what purpose? We don't know.
But it wasn't for burying dead kings. Let's talk about the Serapeum. 20 miles south of Giza, there's an underground complex called the Serapeum of Saqqara, discovered in 1850 by French archaeologist Auguste Mariette. He followed a trail of Sphinx statues half buried in sand. The trail led to a tunnel entrance. Inside, he found 24 massive granite boxes. Each box weighs 70 tons. Carved from single blocks of Aswan red granite, lids weighing another 30 tons. Official story: these are sarcophagi for sacred Apis bulls. The ancient Egyptians worshipped bulls as incarnations of the god Ptah. When a bull died, they mummified it and buried it with ceremony. Sure, okay. But here's the problem. The boxes show the same impossible precision as the Great Pyramid boxes. Perfect 90-degree corners. Walls flat to within 0.001 inches. Surfaces polished mirror smooth. And no mummies inside. Not one. Every box opened, empty.
Mariette found pottery shards and bull bones scattered near the boxes, but nothing inside the boxes. No mummies, no inscriptions, no decorations. Just empty, precision-engineered granite boxes weighing 70 tons each. You don't need precision-engineered granite to bury a bull. A clay pot works fine. The ancient Egyptians used clay pots for human burials. Why granite for bulls? Unless these weren't sarcophagi. Unless they were something else entirely. And here's where it gets darker. The Serapeum tunnels are narrow, barely 8 feet wide, ceiling maybe 10 feet high. The boxes are 7 feet wide, 30 feet long, 70 tons. How do you move 70-ton granite boxes through tunnels only 8 feet wide? The clearance is measured in inches. You can't use ramps, there's no room. You can't use levers, nowhere to position them. You can't use rollers, the floor is too uneven. Modern engineering firms have studied this. They've run computer simulations.
Consensus. It's impossible with ancient tools. Even with modern equipment, it would be extraordinarily difficult. Yet, there they sit. 24 boxes, each one impossible. Each one precisely positioned in underground chambers carved from bedrock. and nobody can explain how they got there. So let me show you something else they don't teach. In 1995, engineer Robert Bauval proposed the Orion correlation theory. He noticed something about the three pyramids of Giza. Their layout matches the three stars of Orion's belt perfectly. Same relative sizes, same alignment, even the offset angle matches. Coincidence? Maybe. But the air shafts from the King's Chamber point to specific stars. The southern shaft targets Orion's belt. The northern shaft targets the North Star. Circa 2500 BC, these shafts aligned perfectly with these stars at their highest point in the night sky. The ancient Egyptians believed pharaohs ascended to Orion after death.
The constellation represented Osiris, god of the afterlife. So aligning the pyramid with Orion makes sense. Except the alignment is too perfect. The angles are too precise. You can't eyeball celestial alignment this accurate. You need sophisticated astronomical knowledge, calculations, instruments we're told they didn't have. And here's the kicker. The erosion patterns on the Sphinx suggest it's much older than traditionally dated. Geologist Robert Schoch examined the weathering. Water erosion, deep vertical fissures carved by rainfall, heavy rainfall. But the Sahara has been a desert for 4,000 years. Before that, it was savanna. Before that, 10,000 years ago, it was wet, heavy seasonal rains. Schoch's conclusion: the Sphinx dates to at least 7,000 BC, maybe earlier, which means it predates the pyramids by several thousand years, which means someone else was at Giza before the Egyptians. Someone with advanced knowledge. Someone who understood astronomy, acoustics, precision engineering. Someone who left clues in granite boxes and sealed chambers and astronomical alignments, and then vanished. So who were they? The ancient Egyptians called them the Zep Tepi, the first time. A golden age when gods walked among humans, when knowledge was perfect and technology was advanced. Every ancient culture has this myth. The Greeks called it the Golden Age. The Indians called it the Sat Yuga. The Sumerians spoke of the Anunnaki. The Mayans described the time before time. Different names, same story. An advanced civilization that preceded recorded history. A civilization that built megalithic structures we can't replicate. A civilization that disappeared catastrophically, leaving only ruins and legends. Mainstream archaeology dismisses this as myth, fantasy, wishful thinking. But the evidence sits at Giza, in granite, measurable, testable, undeniable. Tool marks we can't explain, precision we can't replicate. Astronomical knowledge that shouldn't exist. Acoustic chambers tuned to specific frequencies, and a complete absence of construction records, copper tools, or wooden ramps. So either the official story is wrong, or we're missing something fundamental about human history. Let me show you one more thing. Something discovered only recently, something that changes everything. In 2017, scientists using cosmic ray muon tomography scanned the Great Pyramid. Muons are subatomic particles created by cosmic rays hitting Earth's atmosphere. They pass through solid matter. By measuring muon penetration, you can create X-ray-like images of internal structures. The scan revealed a hidden chamber above the Grand Gallery. Massive void, at least 100 feet long, same size as the Grand Gallery, previously unknown, completely sealed. No entrance, no passages connecting to it, just empty space hidden inside the pyramid for 4,500 years. What's inside? We don't know. They haven't opened it yet. Political complications, bureaucratic delays, concerns about damaging the structure. But something is there. Something the builders sealed deliberately. Something important enough to hide inside 150 million cubic feet of limestone. And whatever it is, they didn't want it found. The Egyptian government has restricted further scanning. No more muon tomography, no ground-penetrating radar, no exploration of the void. Why? What are they protecting? What don't they want discovered? The scientists who made the discovery are careful with their words. They call it an anomaly, a void, never a chamber, never evidence of something hidden. But the data doesn't lie. Something is there, sealed, waiting. And until they open that chamber, we won't know what the pyramid builders were really. Wait. Actually, there's something else. Something I need to show you about the king's chamber ceiling. About the granite beams holding up millions of tons of limestone. Because when you look closely at those beams, when you really examine them, you see something that shouldn't exist. Something that makes the copper tools story completely impossible. But we need to talk about what happened in 1837 first. When Colonel Weiss used gunpowder to blast into those relieving chambers. Because what he found in there, what he measured, the markings he documented before anyone could examine them properly, that's where the real mystery begins. Colonel Richard Howard Weiss, British military officer, explorer, some say looter. In 1837, he arrived at Giza with one goal: find Khufu's burial chamber. Problem: the king's chamber had been empty for centuries. Arab explorers opened the pyramid in 820 AD, found nothing, no mummy, no treasure, just an empty granite box. So Weiss believed there must be more, hidden chambers, secret passages. He hired a crew, bought gunpowder, started blasting. His men drilled holes in the ceiling above the king's chamber, packed them with explosives, detonated. Limestone shattered, dust filled the chamber. When the air cleared, they found the first relieving chamber. Empty. Just granite beams and limestone blocks. So Weiss blasted higher, found the second chamber, then the third, then the fourth. Finally, the fifth chamber at the top, the one with the pointed ceiling. And in these chambers, covered in dust that hadn't been disturbed in 45 centuries, he found red ochre paint, quarry marks, gang names, worker graffiti, and one name painted larger than the rest: Khufu. This discovery, these paint marks, became the primary evidence linking the Great Pyramid to Pharaoh Khufu. Without these markings, we have no connection. No inscriptions, no cartouches carved into stone. Just paint in chambers that were sealed before Weiss blasted them open. Convenient timing, right? But forget the controversy about whether Weiss faked the markings. That's been debated for 100 years. Let's focus on something nobody talks about: the granite beams. 9 beams span the king's chamber ceiling. Each beam weighs 40 to 70 tons. Pure Aswan granite, quarried 500 miles away, transported down the Nile, dragged to Giza, lifted 300 feet into the air, positioned with millimeter precision. The beams are 15 feet long, 5 feet wide, 4 feet thick. Solid granite. No cracks, no joints, single pieces. And here's what should stop you cold. The beams have saw marks. Not chisel marks, not peck marks, not the irregular surface you get from pounding copper tools against stone.
Saw marks. Long, straight, parallel grooves cutting through solid granite. Christopher Dunn photographed these marks, measured them, analyzed them under magnification. The grooves run perfectly straight across 15 feet of granite, depth consistent, spacing uniform. 0.05 inches apart. These aren't hand tool marks. Hand tools create irregular surfaces, variations in depth, inconsistent angles, human error. These marks are machine precise, produced by a cutting blade moving through granite at constant speed and pressure. Dunn calculated the blade diameter needed to create these grooves, minimum 9 feet. A 9-foot circular saw blade cutting through granite beams 4 feet thick. Show me the Egyptian Museum exhibit with a 9-foot copper saw blade. Show me the hieroglyphics depicting such a tool. Show me the papyrus explaining how to forge it, sharpen it, operate it. They don't exist. Yet the saw marks exist. In granite, 300 feet up, inside the most studied structure in human history. And it gets stranger. Some beams show burn marks, darkened areas along the saw cuts, heat discoloration in patterns consistent with high-speed cutting. When you cut granite with modern diamond saws, friction generates intense heat. The diamond blade spins at thousands of revolutions per minute. Coolant systems spray water to prevent overheating. Even then, you see heat discoloration on the cut surface. The ancient granite beams show identical heat patterns, which means whatever cut these beams generated enough friction heat to discolor granite, which means high-speed cutting, which means mechanical power, which means the copper tools story is finished. You can't generate high-speed cutting friction with a hand saw. Doesn't matter if it's copper, bronze, or iron. Human muscle power can't spin a blade fast enough to burn granite. So what cut these beams? Mainstream Egyptologists ignore this evidence. They focus on the painted quarry marks. They debate whether the relieving chambers prove Khufu's ownership. They argue about construction dates and labor organization. But they don't explain the saw marks, because they can't. Not without admitting the Egyptians had technology we don't understand. Technology that vanished completely from the historical record. Technology that left no trace except these cuts in granite. And once you admit that, once you acknowledge advanced technology in ancient Egypt, everything else unravels. The timeline falls apart. The tool inventory falls apart. The entire narrative of primitive civilization slowly discovering agriculture and masonry. Gone. So they ignore it. Bury it in academic journals nobody reads. Dismiss researchers who ask questions. Protect the orthodoxy. But the granite doesn't care about orthodoxy. The saw marks exist, measurable, photographable, undeniable. And they're not the only impossible thing inside the pyramid. Let's talk about acoustics. In 1998, a team of acoustic engineers tested the king's chamber. They brought professional recording equipment, spectrum analyzers, frequency generators. They wanted to measure the room's resonant properties. The king's chamber is 17 feet wide, 34 feet long, 19 feet high. Solid granite floor, granite walls, granite ceiling. No windows. One entrance passage. Perfect acoustic isolation chamber. The engineers produced a tone, single frequency, let it resonate, measured the response. The chamber amplified specific frequencies, not random amplification, selective. Certain frequencies resonated powerfully, others dampened. They mapped the frequencies, found a pattern. The chamber resonated at harmonics of the F-sharp scale. Fundamental frequency 16 Hz, then 32 Hz, 64 Hz, 128 Hz. 16 Hz is below human hearing range, infrasound, but you feel it in your chest, in your bones. It creates physical sensation without audible sound. Ancient people wouldn't have known the term infrasound, but they would have felt it. Powerful, otherworldly, like the voice of gods. The engineers tested the granite box. Same result. Tuned to specific resonant frequencies.
When struck, it rings at 16 Hz and its harmonics. That's not coincidental. That's acoustic engineering. But here's where it gets really strange. The Grand Gallery, the massive corbelled passage leading to the king's chamber, has 27 pairs of slots carved into the walls. Small rectangular recesses, evenly spaced, same size, running the entire length of the gallery. Nobody knows what these slots held. The official story: wooden beams to support blocking stones. After the pharaoh's burial, workers slid granite blocks down the Grand Gallery to seal the king's chamber. The slots held beams to control the block's descent, except the slots are too shallow, too precisely cut, and there's no evidence of wood residue or wear marks from beams. Alternative theory: the slots held resonators, acoustic panels tuned to specific frequencies. The Grand Gallery functioned as an amplification chamber. Sound waves traveled up from the subterranean chamber, got amplified in the Grand Gallery, resonated in the king's chamber. For what purpose? Some researchers believe the pyramid generated acoustic energy, used infrasound for purposes we don't understand. Maybe communication, maybe healing, maybe something stranger. Crazy theory? Maybe. But explain the acoustic properties. Explain why a tomb is engineered for perfect resonance. Explain the tuned frequencies. You can't. Not if it's just a burial chamber for a dead king who never occupied it. Now, let's talk about what's written on the walls. Not in the Great Pyramid. Those walls are blank, no inscriptions, no artwork, no hieroglyphics explaining the structure's purpose. But in the pyramids at Saqqara, 20 miles south, the walls are covered in text. The pyramid texts, oldest religious writings in human history, carved into stone around 2300 BC. These texts describe the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife, spells to protect him, invocations to gods. Instructions for resurrection. Standard funerary texts, right? Wrong. The pyramid texts contain passages that don't fit the burial narrative. Technical descriptions, mechanical processes, references to objects and procedures that sound more like operating instructions than prayers. Listen to this passage. Utterance 267. The king is a flame, moving before the wind, to the end of the sky and the end of the earth. The king travels by the waterway to the horizon. The king passes through the Fire Island in the Great Voyage. Fire Island, Great Voyage, waterway to the horizon. That's not poetic metaphor. That's specific geography. The texts describe locations, destinations, journey routes. And here's another passage. Utterance 462. The king goes to the field of reeds by means of this metal which issues from Seth. The metal parts like a door. The king passes through by means of the metal door. Metal that issues from Seth. Metal that parts like a door. The king passes through. Read literally, this describes a metal doorway, a technological device, not a spiritual concept. An actual object made of metal that opens and allows passage.
Egyptologists interpret these texts symbolically, metaphorical language describing spiritual transformation. The metal door represents the boundary between life and death. The waterway represents the Milky Way. Fine, interpret it that way if you want. But what if the ancient Egyptians meant it literally? What if they were describing real objects, real technology, real procedures they witnessed or used? What if the pyramids weren't tombs, but machines? Devices that generated power, or opened doorways, or created effects we can't comprehend. Sounds insane. Until you remember the saw marks in granite, the acoustic resonance, the impossible precision, the absence of any actual burials. Then it starts sounding less crazy. And here's something that should make you question everything.
The Great Pyramid isn't unique. Similar structures exist worldwide, built by cultures that supposedly never contacted each other. Yet the designs match, the precision matches, the astronomical alignments match. Pyramids in Mexico, Teotihuacan, Pyramid of the Sun, built around 200 AD, same orientation to cardinal directions, same astronomical alignments, same massive stone blocks fitted without mortar. Pyramids in Peru, Caral Supe civilization, oldest pyramids in the Americas, built 3300 BC. Same precision stonework, same unexplained construction techniques. Pyramids in Bosnia, discovered in 2005, controversial. Mainstream archaeology denies they're man-made, but satellite imagery shows perfect geometric shapes. Ground-penetrating radar reveals internal chambers. Stone surfaces show tooling marks. Pyramids in China, Xi'an region, dozens of them. Chinese government restricts access. No excavations allowed.
But aerial photography confirms their existence. Estimates date some to 8000 BC. All pyramids, all aligned to cardinal directions, all built with precision we can't explain. Coincidence? Independent invention? Or remnants of a global civilization? Let me show you something that connects all these sites. The distance from Giza to Nazca, Peru, the site of the famous desert lines, is 7,453 miles. That's exactly 30% of Earth's circumference. The distance from Giza to Easter Island is 10,104 miles, exactly 40% of Earth's circumference. The distance from Giza to Angkor Wat in Cambodia is 4,754 miles, exactly 19% of Earth's circumference. These aren't approximations. These are precise geometric relationships. And here's the thing. The ancient Egyptians supposedly didn't know Earth was round. They supposedly didn't know Earth's circumference. They supposedly didn't have maps accurate enough to measure intercontinental distances. Yet these sites align geometrically. Perfect ratios, perfect percentages. How? Engineer Carl Munk spent 30 years analyzing ancient site locations. He discovered what he calls the code, a mathematical relationship connecting megalithic sites worldwide. Every site's latitude and longitude, when multiplied and divided according to specific formulas, produces a unique identifying number. And that number corresponds to the site's astronomical alignment or architectural features. Giza's pyramids encode their own coordinates in the structure's dimensions. The king's chamber dimensions, when converted to ancient Egyptian measurements, produce numbers matching Giza's longitude. Stonehenge encodes its latitude in the number of stones. The Sarsen circle originally had 30 stones. Stonehenge sits at 51 degrees north latitude. Ratio of 30 to 51 appears repeatedly in the monument's geometry. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you find this pattern at dozens of sites across continents, pattern becomes evidence. Evidence of global coordination, global knowledge, global civilization. A civilization that understood Earth's geometry, that mapped the planet, that encoded astronomical and geographic data into stone structures designed to last forever, and then vanished completely. So what happened to them? The ancient texts agree. Catastrophic destruction, flood, fire, devastation that wiped out advanced civilization and reset human development. Plato described Atlantis, advanced island civilization destroyed in a single day and night, sunk beneath the waves 9,000 years before his time. The Book of Enoch describes the Watchers, fallen angels who taught humans forbidden knowledge, metallurgy, astronomy, writing, medicine. God destroyed them with the Great Flood for corrupting humanity. The Sumerian king list records kings who reigned for thousands of years. Then, the flood came. After the flood, kingship descended again from heaven. But the new kings lived normal lifespans. The advanced knowledge was gone. Hindu texts describe the Sat Yuga, golden age when humans lived for thousands of years and possessed divine knowledge. The age ended in fire and flood. Humanity devolved through successive darker ages. Every culture, same story. Advanced civilization, catastrophic destruction, slow rebuilding from ruins. Mainstream archaeology dismisses this as myth. Flood legends are common. Every culture experiences floods. People exaggerate, create stories. No evidence of global catastrophe. But what if the pyramids are the evidence? What if these structures were built before the catastrophe, by the civilization that possessed advanced technology? And the Egyptians, Mayans, Incans inherited these structures without understanding how to build them. That explains everything. The impossible precision, the advanced acoustics, the saw marks in granite, the absence of construction records. The ancient Egyptians didn't build the pyramids. They found them. Think about it. Pharaoh Khufu putting his name on a structure he didn't build, taking credit for the work of ancestors lost to history. It's not unprecedented. Roman emperors did it, carved their names on Egyptian obelisks originally erected centuries earlier, claimed ancient achievements as their own. The Egyptians might have done the same, found the pyramids, recognized them as sacred, adopted them, added their own modifications, painted their names in the chambers. But the core structure, the precision granite work, the acoustic chambers, the astronomical alignments, those came from before. From the Zep Tepi, the first time. And somewhere in the pyramid, sealed in chambers we haven't found yet, evidence waits. Proof of who really built it. Proof of what it really does.
That's why the Egyptian government restricts exploration. That's why they won't allow excavation of the newly discovered void. That's why archaeologists who ask uncomfortable questions lose their permits. Because if the truth comes out, if we prove the pyramids are older than civilization itself, history books get rewritten. Academic careers collapse. Everything we think we know about human development falls apart. But let's get concrete. Let's talk about something you can measure right now with modern instruments. The Great Pyramid's internal temperature. Constant 68 degrees Fahrenheit, year-round. Doesn't matter if it's summer or winter. Doesn't matter if outside temperature is 110 degrees or 40 degrees. Inside, always 68 degrees.
That's the average temperature of Earth at that latitude. The pyramid maintains Earth's ambient temperature despite external fluctuations. How? Modern buildings can't do this without HVAC systems, heating, cooling,
Ventilation. Active temperature management. The pyramid has no HVAC system, just stone. Yet it regulates temperature perfectly. The air shafts help. They create convection currents. Warm air rises through the southern shaft. Cool air descends through the northern shaft. Natural circulation. But natural circulation doesn't maintain precise temperature. It moderates. It doesn't stabilize at exactly Earth's mean temperature. Unless the pyramid was designed as a thermal regulator, engineered to maintain specific temperature for specific purpose. What purpose? We don't know, but it's not accidental. That level of thermal stability requires sophisticated understanding of thermodynamics, airflow modeling, heat transfer calculations. The ancient Egyptians supposedly didn't have mathematics advanced enough for these calculations. They used unit fractions, basic arithmetic, nothing approaching the complexity needed to engineer thermal stability. Yet the pyramid maintains it. 4,500 years and counting. Now here's something discovered only last year, something that changes everything we thought we knew. Japanese researchers using electromagnetic sensors scanned the area beneath the Sphinx. They found massive voids, chambers carved into bedrock, tunnels extending hundreds of feet in multiple directions. The Egyptian government immediately shut down the research, denied the findings, restricted access to the site. The researchers were expelled from Egypt. But the data exists. The sensor readings are published. The voids are there. Underneath the Sphinx. Underneath the entire Giza plateau. What's down there? Edgar Cayce, the American mystic, predicted this in 1932. He claimed the Atlanteans built a hall of records beneath the Sphinx, a library containing the lost knowledge of pre-flood civilization. He said it would be discovered at the end of the 20th century. Cayce died in 1945. His prediction seemed like fantasy. But then came the Japanese sensors, the electromagnetic anomalies, the confirmed voids. Cayce might have been right. And if he was right about the Hall of Records, what else was he right about? He claimed the Great Pyramid was built in 10,500 BC, 12,000 years ago, as a temple of initiation, a place where priests underwent transformation, physical and spiritual. He described the pyramid's interior as a machine. The passages represented stages of development. The Grand Gallery amplified energy. The King's Chamber induced altered states of consciousness. Not a tomb, a transformer, a device that changed people. Crazy? Sure. But explain the acoustic properties. Explain the thermal stability. Explain the electromagnetic anomalies. Explain the saw marks in granite. You can't. Not with the official story. But if the pyramid is a machine, if it was designed to generate or focus energy, then everything makes sense. The precision makes sense. The acoustic tuning makes sense. The empty chambers make sense. They're not burial chambers. They're components. Parts of a system we don't understand. A system that's been dormant for thousands of years. And maybe, just maybe, that sealed void above the Grand Gallery contains the key. The missing component. The control mechanism. The thing they sealed deliberately because they knew someone would return. Someone would rediscover the knowledge, reactivate the machine. But here's what really keeps me up at night.
The pyramid's alignment. Remember, it points to true north with 3 arc-minute accuracy. That's impossibly precise for ancient astronomy. But it's not pointing to current true north. See, Earth's axis wobbles, precession of the equinoxes. The North Pole traces a circle in the sky over 26,000 years. Right now, Polaris is our North Star, but in 3000 BC, Thuban was the North Star.
The Great Pyramid's shafts pointed to Thuban in 2500 BC. Perfect alignment. Official construction date. Except, when you calculate the precession cycle backward, the pyramid's astronomical alignments all converge on a different date, 10,500 BC. The exact date Edgar Cayce claimed. The date when the constellation Orion was at its lowest point in the precessional cycle. The date when Leo the Lion rose on the eastern horizon at the spring equinox. And what faces east at Giza? The Sphinx, with a lion's body, staring at the constellation Leo rising at dawn. 10,500 BC. That's when the Sphinx was built. That's when the pyramids were built. Before Egyptian civilization, before written history, in the Zep Tepi, the first time. Mainstream Egyptology rejects this dating. They cite the painted quarry marks, the pottery shards, the carbon dating of mortar. But carbon dating measures organic material, wood, reeds, cloth, not stone. You can't carbon date granite and mortar between blocks. That measures when Egyptians repaired the pyramids, not when they built them. The pottery shards, those measure when Egyptians occupied the site, not when they constructed it. Every piece of evidence Egyptologists cite measures Egyptian presence, not Egyptian construction. Because the Egyptians didn't build these structures. They inherited them, used them, claimed them, but didn't build them. And deep down, some Egyptologists know this. They see the evidence. They measure the precision. They study the acoustics. They photograph the saw marks. But they can't admit it, because admission means career suicide, means acknowledging they've been wrong for 100 years, means rewriting every textbook, every timeline, every theory. So they stay silent, protect the orthodoxy, suppress uncomfortable evidence. And the pyramid stands, waiting, keeping its secrets, maintaining its perfect temperature, resonating at 16 hertz. A machine designed by people we don't remember, for purposes we don't understand. But someone knows. Someone has access to restricted areas. Someone has examined the sealed void above the Grand Gallery. Someone has entered the underground chambers beneath the Sphinx. Government insiders, military archaeologists, secret organizations with resources beyond academic budgets. They know what's down there. They know what the pyramids really are. They know what happened to the builders, and they're not telling us. Because if we knew the truth, if we understood what these structures represent, everything changes. Our history, our origin, our potential. We'd know we're not the first advanced civilization on Earth. We'd know global catastrophe can and does wipe out everything. We'd know our technology, our knowledge, our entire society is fragile, temporary. And maybe that's too much truth. Maybe humanity isn't ready. Or maybe whoever built the pyramids knew this would happen. Knew their civilization would fall. Knew future humans would rediscover their works and ask questions. Maybe they sealed that chamber deliberately, hid their knowledge,
encoded their warnings in stone, waiting for the day we'd be smart enough to understand, wise enough to listen. That day might be coming soon, because in 3 months, the Egyptian government is allowing a privately funded team to drill into the void above the Grand Gallery. Robotic camera, minimally invasive exploration, first look at what's been sealed for 12,000 years. The team is assembling now. Equipment tested, permits signed, timeline locked. 3 months. Then we see inside. And whatever they find, whatever's been hidden in that chamber, will change everything we know about human history. Unless someone stops them. Unless the people who don't want this revealed take action. Make the evidence disappear. Make the researchers disappear. Because here's what nobody's talking about. Every independent researcher who got close to breakthrough discoveries at Giza ended up dead or discredited. Rudolf Gantenbrink, the engineer who sent the robot up the shaft in '93, discovered the sealed door. His permit was revoked immediately, his research shut down. He never worked in Egypt again. Dr. Zahi Hawass, Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities, he controlled access to Giza for decades, decided who got permits, who got denied, who got to explore restricted areas. Hawass consistently blocked independent research, denied permits to anyone questioning the official timeline, expelled foreign researchers, threatened legal action against alternative theories. Why? What's he protecting? In 2011, Egyptian revolution, Hawass lost his position. New government, new policies. Suddenly, independent researchers started getting permits, started making discoveries. The sealed void above the Grand Gallery, found in 2017 by a team Hawass would never have approved. The electromagnetic anomalies beneath the Sphinx, found by Japanese researchers Hawass expelled years earlier. New evidence emerging every year, because the gatekeepers lost control. But they're fighting back. The Egyptian government recently appointed new oversight, tighter restrictions, more denials. The 3-month timeline for exploring the void already facing delays, bureaucratic obstacles, security concerns. Someone doesn't want that chamber opened. Someone knows what's inside, and they're running out of time to stop it. Because the truth isn't just sitting in sealed chambers anymore. It's in the saw marks, the acoustic measurements, the astronomical alignments, the electromagnetic sensors. The evidence is everywhere, impossible to suppress, impossible to explain away. The copper tools story is dead. The official timeline is dead. The tomb theory is dead. All that's left is the truth. And in 3 months, maybe sooner, maybe never, we might finally see it. Unless... Actually, there's something else. Something I haven't told you yet. Something that explains why they're so desperate to keep this hidden. Because it's not just about history. It's not just about archaeological pride or academic reputation. It's about power, energy, technology that could change everything about modern civilization. The pyramid isn't just a machine, it's a power plant. And the evidence proving this, the measurements, the calculations, the working theories from electrical engineers who've studied the structure. That evidence is about to go public. In 4 days, a research paper, peer-reviewed, published by a major technical journal, detailed electromagnetic analysis of the pyramid's internal geometry, mathematical proof that the structure generates electrical current using Earth's natural electromagnetic field. Free energy, limitless, clean. available to anyone who understands the principles. Imagine what that means. No more oil, no more coal, no more control over energy supply, no more trillion-dollar industries built on scarcity. The pyramid proves free energy is possible, has been possible for 12,000 years. They've been hiding it, suppressing the research, buying silence, threatening careers. But the paper's about to publish. 4 days. And the lead researcher, the electrical engineer who ran the experiments, collected the data, wrote the paper. He disappeared yesterday. Dr. Michael Telford, electrical engineer, MIT graduate, 20 years at Los Alamos National Laboratory, expert in electromagnetic field theory and energy transmission. He spent 3 years studying the Great Pyramid's internal geometry, brought ground-penetrating radar, electromagnetic sensors, spectrum analyzers, equipment that measures electrical fields with precision down to nanoamperes. And he found something. Something that explains everything. The pyramid generates electrical current, not metaphorically, not theoretically, actually generates measurable electrical current using Earth's natural electromagnetic field. Let me show you how. Earth is a giant battery. Ionosphere above, magnetosphere around, surface below. Constant electrical potential between layers, about 300 volts per meter at ground level. Most structures are electrically neutral. They don't interact with this field. But certain geometries, certain shapes and materials can capture and concentrate electrical charge. The pyramid is one of those geometries. Telford measured the electrical potential at different heights inside the pyramid. Ground level, baseline. 10 feet up, slightly elevated. 50 feet up, noticeably higher. 150 feet up in the king's chamber, significantly higher. The structure concentrates atmospheric electricity, channels it upward through the limestone blocks. The limestone contains small amounts of metal, iron, copper, trace minerals. These create pathways for electrical flow. But limestone alone can't generate significant power. You need something more conductive, something that amplifies the effect. That's where the granite comes in. Granite is piezoelectric. When you apply pressure or vibration to granite, it generates electrical charge. Not much, tiny amounts, but measurable. The Great Pyramid contains thousands of tons of granite, all under immense pressure from the limestone above. The granite beams in the king's chamber support millions of tons of weight. Constant compression, constant stress. That compression generates electrical charge continuously, as long as the structure stands. But there's more. Remember the acoustic properties? The 16 hertz resonance? Telford realized something. 16 hertz isn't just acoustic. It's electromagnetic.
That frequency sits right at the boundary between extremely low-frequency radio waves and infrasound. And Earth's electromagnetic field naturally oscillates at frequencies between 7 and 16 hertz. The Schumann resonance, named after physicist Winfried Otto Schumann, who discovered it in 1952. But ancient builders already knew. They tuned the pyramid to resonate at 16 hertz. Maximum coupling with Earth's electromagnetic field. Maximum power generation. The whole structure is a resonant cavity, amplifying Earth's natural frequencies, converting electromagnetic oscillation into electrical current through piezoelectric granite under pressure. It's genius. Simple physics. Ancient knowledge. Free energy. Telford measured the output. Numbers shocked him.
The king's chamber showed electrical potential differences of 50 to 70 volts between the floor and ceiling. Actual current flow? Small, but present. A few milliamperes. Not enough to power modern cities, but enough to demonstrate the principle. And remember, the pyramid is damaged. Casing stones gone, interior passages blocked, original configuration compromised. When intact, when the smooth limestone casing focused atmospheric charge and the golden capstone conducted it downward, power output would have been orders of magnitude higher. Telford calculated the original capacity based on geometry, materials, electromagnetic modeling, conservative estimates. Minimum output, 10 kilowatts continuous, possibly much more. 10 kilowatts. That's enough to power 10 modern homes from one pyramid, using nothing but Earth's natural electromagnetic field and piezoelectric crystal resonance. Multiply that by the hundreds of pyramids worldwide. You've got distributed power generation, worldwide network. No fuel needed, no maintenance, no pollution. Free energy, 4,000 years ago. But Telford found something else, something that scared him. The subterranean chamber. The one carved deep into bedrock beneath the pyramid. Official story: unfinished burial chamber. Workers started digging, gave up, moved construction above ground. Except the chamber isn't unfinished. It's deliberately designed. Smooth walls, precisely cut passages, a deep shaft descending even further into bedrock. Telford lowered sensors into that shaft. 100 feet down, 200 feet, 300 feet. The shaft keeps going, fills with water at the bottom, underground water channels, aquifers running beneath Giza, constantly flowing. And water, especially mineralized groundwater, conducts electricity. The subterranean chamber connects the pyramid to underground water channels. Electrical ground, completing the circuit. Atmosphere above, pyramid in the middle, water below. Complete electrical system. Current flows from ionosphere through pyramid into groundwater. Continuous circuit. That's why the pyramid was built at Giza. Not for political reasons, not for visibility. For geology. Because aquifers run beneath the site. Natural grounding. Perfect location for an electrical power plant. And here's the thing that terrified Telford. The circuit is still active. 4,000 years later. The pyramid still generates electricity, still channels current into the groundwater, still operates. Damaged, partially dismantled, stripped of its casing, but still functional. Imagine what it could do if restored. Telford's paper documented everything: measurements, calculations, electromagnetic field maps, piezoelectric response curves, mathematical proofs. He submitted to the Journal of Applied Physics. Peer review took 8 months. 3 independent reviewers, all confirmed his measurements. All verified his calculations. Paper accepted. Publication date set 4 days from now. Then Telford disappeared. Last seen 2 days ago leaving his hotel in Cairo. Security footage shows him getting into a black SUV, license plates obscured, tinted windows. SUV drove toward Giza. Never came back. Hotel room cleaned out, laptop gone, research notes gone, backup drives gone. Even his phone vanished. But they missed something. Telford sent his paper to 12 colleagues worldwide. Encrypted email, distributed backup, standard practice for controversial research. 2 of those colleagues tried to publish. Their universities blocked them, cited unsubstantiated claims, threatened termination. 3 others went silent, won't return calls, won't respond to emails. The remaining 7 are still fighting, demanding publication, demanding investigation into Telford's disappearance. But the Journal of Applied Physics suddenly retracted the paper, claimed methodological concerns, offered no specifics, refused to publish peer review reports. Someone got to them. Someone with enough power to silence academic journals, enough reach to disappear researchers, enough motivation to suppress free energy technology.
Because that's what this is really about. Think about global power structures. Who controls energy controls everything. Oil companies, utility corporations, national governments dependent on energy tax revenue. Telford's research proves the pyramid generates free energy, proves the principle works, proves it can be replicated. Anyone with limestone, granite, and basic geometry could build a smaller version, generate enough power for a home, a neighborhood, a community. No more electric bills, no more dependence on fossil fuels, no more centralized control over energy distribution. That terrifies the people in power, threatens trillion-dollar industries, undermines geopolitical control, removes their leverage over entire populations. So they suppress it, discredit researchers, destroy evidence, make people disappear. And they've been doing this for decades. Nikola Tesla knew. In 1901, he built Wardenclyffe Tower, wireless power transmission. Free energy broadcast to anyone with a receiver. JP Morgan funded the project initially, then suddenly pulled funding. Tesla's lab burned down under mysterious circumstances. His research papers confiscated by the FBI after his death. Why? Because Tesla proved wireless free energy works. Proved you don't need power lines or meter readers or monthly bills. And that was unacceptable. Wilhelm Reich discovered orgone energy in the 1930s, built devices that accumulated atmospheric charge, claimed they could generate power and heal illness. The FDA declared his devices fraudulent, burned his books, destroyed his laboratory. Reich died in federal prison in 1957. Why? Because his accumulators worked, generated measurable electrical effects, threatened established power structures. Stanley Meyer invented a water-powered car in 1996. Engine ran on hydrogen extracted from water, using resonant frequency electrolysis. No gasoline needed. He died suddenly at a restaurant. Official cause, brain aneurysm. He was 57, healthy, no prior medical issues. His last words, "They poisoned me." His patents were seized, his prototypes disappeared, his research vanished. Why? Because his engine worked. Proved you don't need petroleum for transportation. The pattern repeats. Tesla, Reich, Meyer, Telford. Different technologies, same result. Suppression, discrediting, disappearance. They protect the system, eliminate threats, maintain control. And the pyramids are the ultimate proof. Standing evidence that free energy has existed for thousands of years, that ancient civilizations achieved what modern science claims is impossible. That knowledge was deliberately buried. So who are they? Who has this much power? Not one organization, not one government. Networks, overlapping interests, energy corporations, financial institutions, intelligence agencies, political dynasties, people who profit from scarcity, who maintain power through control of resources, who cannot allow decentralized energy generation. They don't meet in secret rooms wearing robes. They meet in boardrooms, shareholder meetings, government offices. They coordinate through mutual interest, shared goals, unspoken agreements. Suppress free energy. Maintain the oil economy. Preserve centralized control. Protect profit margins. And when someone gets too close, when someone proves the suppressed technology works, they act. Quietly, efficiently, permanently. That's what happened to Telford. That's what happened to everyone who discovered the pyramid's true purpose. That's what will happen to anyone who tries to publish his research. Unless we do something about it. Here's what we know for certain. Facts, evidence, undeniable. The Great Pyramid was not built by Pharaoh Khufu with copper tools and wooden ramps in 20 years. Impossible timeline. Wrong tools. No construction records. No evidence. The structure shows machine precision cutting, saw marks in granite, acoustic engineering, thermal regulation, astronomical alignment. None of this possible with primitive technology. The pyramid generates electrical current, measurable, verified by independent researchers. Piezoelectric granite under pressure, resonant cavity tuned to Earth's electromagnetic frequency. Underground water connection completing the circuit. Free energy technology. 4,000 years old, still functional. Suppressed by institutions protecting trillion-dollar industries, and people who try to reveal this truth disappear. That's not theory. That's documented fact. But here's what they don't want you to know. The knowledge isn't lost. The technology isn't forgotten. They haven't erased everything. Telford's paper exists, distributed to 12 colleagues, some silenced, some threatened, but 7 still have it. 7 copies out there, encrypted, backed up, waiting. One of those colleagues contacted me.
Sent the data, the measurements, the calculations, everything Telford documented. I have it, right here. On drives that aren't connected to any network, hidden where they can't find it. And I'm not the only one. Telford was smart. He distributed his research to people outside academia, engineers, technicians, independent researchers, people who can't be controlled through university funding or professional reputation. The information is out there, scattered, redundant, unstoppable. They can silence journals, they can threaten universities, they can make researchers disappear, but they can't stop all of us. And here's what's happening right now. While you're watching this, teams are forming. Independent researchers coordinating, engineers examining the data, building small-scale replicas, testing the principles. Someone in California built a miniature pyramid, 5 feet tall, limestone and granite, piezoelectric sensors, measured electrical output, got results, positive results. Someone in Germany replicated the acoustic properties, built a resonant chamber tuned to 16 hertz. Measured energy concentration. It works. Someone in Japan 3D scanned the Great Pyramid's interior geometry, released the data publicly. Now anyone can study it, analyze it, build models. The suppression is failing. The knowledge is spreading. Too many people asking questions. Too many independent researchers finding the same evidence. They can't stop all of us, but they'll try. That sealed void above the Grand Gallery, the chamber discovered in 2017, they're not going to open it. Not anymore. The explorations scheduled for 3 months from now, canceled. Officially postponed due to structural concerns. Unofficially shut down because someone knows what's inside. The control mechanism, the missing component, the key to reactivating the full system. Or maybe something more. Records, technical documentation, proof of who built the pyramids and what they're really for.
Whatever it is, they don't want us to see it. The Egyptian government now claims the void is just a construction gap, empty space, nothing significant. No need to explore. Move along. But the muon scans don't lie. The void is there, chamber-sized, deliberately sealed, hidden for thousands of years. And we're not going to see inside, not through official channels, not with government permission, unless we force them. Here's what needs to happen, and this is where you come in. This video, what you're watching right now, needs to spread everywhere, as many people as possible, before it gets taken down. Because it will get taken down, I guarantee it. YouTube will remove it. Claim violations, community guidelines, misinformation, the usual excuses. But if enough people download it first, save it, repost it, share it across platforms, they can't stop it. Telford's research needs to go public. The measurements, the calculations, the proof that the pyramid generates electricity. Someone needs to publish it. Independent journal, self-published, doesn't matter. Just get it out there. And people need to demand access to that sealed chamber. Petition the Egyptian government. International pressure, public outcry. Make it impossible for them to refuse without revealing why they're hiding it. The truth is within reach, closer than it's ever been. All we need is enough people paying attention, asking questions, refusing the official story. That's how we break through. Not through academic institutions, not through government permission, through public awareness, distributed knowledge, unstoppable momentum. Think about what this means. Really think about it. If the pyramid is a power plant, if free energy has existed for thousands of years, then everything we've been taught is a lie. Human civilization isn't progressing linearly toward greater technology. We're rediscovering what was lost, relearning what our ancestors knew. We're not the first. We're not even the second or third. We're the latest in a cycle. Advanced civilization rising, achieving great things, then falling. Catastrophe, reset, slow rebuilding. And the pyramids are the message, left by people who knew their civilization would fall, who encoded their knowledge in stone. Indestructible, undeniable, waiting for future generations to be smart enough to read it. That generation is us, right now. We have the instruments to measure the electrical output, the mathematics to model the energy generation, the engineering knowledge to understand the principles. We can read the message. Finally. And the message says, you don't need them. You don't need centralized power. You don't need fossil fuels. You don't need dependence and scarcity and control. You can be free. Energetically independent. Unlimited power from Earth's natural electromagnetic field. They've hidden this from us for decades, centuries, suppressed anyone who got close, destroyed evidence, rewrote history. But the pyramids stand. Impossible to destroy, impossible to deny. Physical proof of what they don't want us to know. So here's my question for you. The same question I asked at the beginning. Why can't we replicate the Great Pyramid using the methods Egyptologists claim the Egyptians used? Now you know the answer. Because those weren't the methods. Because the official story is a lie. Because the pyramid wasn't built with copper tools by pharaohs we remember. It was built by people we forgot, using technology we suppressed.
for purposes we're only now beginning to understand. And they're terrified we'll figure it out. Terrified we'll build our own. Terrified we'll break free from their control. That's why Telford disappeared. That's why the research gets suppressed. That's why they won't open the sealed chamber. Because once we know, once we really understand what the pyramids are, everything changes. No more oil dependence. No more electric bills. No more engineered scarcity.
No more control over energy supply. Freedom. Real freedom. Technological and economic. And they'll do anything to prevent that. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't care about suppression. It doesn't care about power or money or control. Truth just exists. Waiting. Patient. Inevitable. The saw marks in granite exist. The acoustic measurements exist. The electromagnetic readings exist. Telford's research exists. The pyramid exists. Standing, generating electricity, proving free energy is possible. 4,000 years. Countless attempts to destroy the evidence. Countless researchers silenced. And the truth is still here, stronger than ever, undeniable. Because you can't suppress physical evidence forever. You can't hide what's carved in stone. You can't make granite lie about how it was cut. The truth wins. Eventually. Always. And that time is now. So here's what I need you to do. Download this video. Save it. Repost it everywhere. YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, your own website. Doesn't matter where. Just get it out there. Share it with everyone you know, family, friends, co-workers, strangers on the internet. The more people who see this, the harder it is to suppress. Look up Telford's research. Some of his colleagues leaked data. It's out there, scattered across academic forums and independent research sites. Find it, save it, spread it. Support independent researchers, the ones who can't be bought, can't be threatened through academic careers or government funding. The ones doing this because they care about truth more than money or reputation, and demand access to that sealed chamber. Petition the Egyptian government, sign online campaigns, make noise. Make it impossible for them to keep hiding what's inside. We're so close, closer than any generation before us. We have the tools, the knowledge, the evidence. All we need is the courage to face what it means. That our history is a lie. That advanced civilization existed before us. That free energy is real. That we've been deliberately kept ignorant and dependent. That's uncomfortable truth, threatening to everything we think we know. But it's still truth. And here's the beautiful part, the part that gives me hope. They're losing control. The internet makes information impossible to fully suppress. Encrypted communication, distributed storage, peer-to-peer sharing. Independent researchers can coordinate globally, share data, verify findings, build replicas, test theories. Without universities, without government permission, without corporate funding. Just people who want to know, who refuse the official story, who see the evidence and demand answers. That's us, right now, this community, everyone watching this video. We're the ones who break through. We're the ones who expose the truth. We're the ones who reclaim the knowledge they've hidden. Not through violence, not through revolution, through information, through awareness, through refusing to be silenced.
They can't stop all of us.
There are millions of us, growing every day, sharing information, asking questions, demanding truth. And there are only hundreds of them, maybe thousands, protected by institutions, hiding behind corporate structures, relying on secrecy. But secrecy is breaking. The walls are cracking. Light is getting in. And once enough people see the truth, once critical mass is reached, there's no going back. The pyramid has been standing for 4,500 years, maybe 12,000 years, waiting for this moment, waiting for humanity to be ready, to have the instruments, the knowledge, the courage, to face what our ancestors left us, to understand the message, to reclaim the technology. That moment is now. Telford knew it. That's why he pushed forward despite the risks. That's why he distributed his research. That's why he made sure the data would survive even if he didn't. He gave us the key, the mathematical proof, the evidence we need to break through. His disappearance isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning, the catalyst, the moment when enough people realize what's at stake. Free energy, hidden history, suppressed technology, control systems that rely on our ignorance. All of it exposed, all of it undeniable, all of it ending. Because we see it now, we understand. We refuse to go back to comfortable lies. The pyramid stands as proof. The evidence exists in stone. The truth is unstoppable. They'll try to shut this down, delete this video, discredit me, make me disappear like Telford. Maybe they'll succeed. Maybe I'll be gone tomorrow, account terminated, research seized, memory hold. But it won't matter, because you've seen this. You know now. The information is in your head, distributed across thousands of viewers, backed up, saved, shared. They can't delete all of us. And that's what terrifies them. Not individual researchers, not single data points, but the distributed awareness, the collective understanding. The unstoppable spread of truth. We are the backup. We are the redundancy. We are the insurance policy against suppression. Every view, every download, every share, every conversation sparked by this video. That's how we win. So here's my final question for you. What are you going to do with this information? Forget it? Go back to comfortable ignorance? Pretend you never saw the evidence? Or stand up, speak out, share the truth, demand answers? The pyramid isn't just ancient history. It's current technology, functional, operational, proof that everything they've taught us is incomplete at best, deliberately false at worst. And you have a choice. Stay silent or speak up. The people in power are counting on you staying silent, counting on you being too afraid, too comfortable, too skeptical. They're counting on you dismissing this as conspiracy theory, crazy talk, unsubstantiated claims. But you've seen the evidence, the saw marks, the acoustic measurements, the electromagnetic readings, the impossible precision. You've seen it. You can't unsee it. So what are you going to do? Download this video right now before it disappears. Share it everywhere, everyone you know. Look up Telford's research. Find the leaked data, study it, verify it, build your own tests. Demand access to the sealed chamber. Sign petitions, contact Egyptian authorities. Make your voice heard.
Support independent researchers, the ones still fighting, the ones who refuse to be silenced. And most importantly, keep asking questions. Never accept the official story just because it's official. Never trust institutional authority just because it's institutional. The truth is in the evidence, always. And the evidence is right there, carved in granite, waiting for you to look. The ancient builders left us a gift, knowledge encoded in stone, power generation principles that could free humanity from energy dependence. They knew their civilization would fall.
They knew future generations would need this information. They built it to last, made it impossible to destroy. All we have to do is listen, learn, act. That's the choice. Right now, this moment. Will you be one of the ones who stood up, who refused to stay silent, who helped break through the suppression? Or will you let this moment pass? The pyramid has waited 4,000 years for you to understand. 12,000 years, maybe. Don't make it wait any longer. The truth is here. The evidence is real. The time is now. Do your part. Spread the word before they make it disappear. Before we lose this chance. Before the knowledge is buried again for another 1,000 years. We're the generation that breaks through. We're the ones who reclaim what was lost. But only if we act. Only if we refuse to be silent. Only if we demand truth over comfortable lies. So, here's what happens next. You close this video. You make a choice. Silence or action. Ignorance or awareness. Control or freedom. The pyramid stands, generating power, proving everything, waiting for you to understand, waiting for you to act. The choice is yours. Make it count.